Hello everyone, we're just gonna wait for a few more minutes so that people can stream in. 6:58 now. If you guys can hear me, just type in the chat, just to make sure we're not speaking. Right. First response, good. Yes. Okay. So let me start off with the banner first before we start the actual meetup. Hang on. Can you guys see the slide as well? I just flashed it up. Evanet, can you see the meetup slide screen?
Yes, Samir.
Oh, okay, good. So I'm flashing this out. Let's give it a couple more minutes before we start.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Hello. Good evening, everyone. On this, calm Tuesday evening. So I hope you can see the slide screen here. Meetups of the Ministry of Testing, Kuala Lumpur. If yes, just drop a note that you can see the slide. Okay. All right. So onward to the next. Welcome to the meetup of Ministry of Testing KL meetup number 13. Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be August, not July. But yeah, so welcome to the meetup. Thanks for your time. I hope we can spend the time productively today to learn some new things with our guest speaker today. Okay. Before I start, this is today's agenda. So generally, I'll be spending some time to introduce the Ministry of Testing community in KL, what Ministry of Testing is and whatnot, so that everyone here can understand what is Ministry of Testing and then participate in the in its activities. Yeah, and then afterwards, after my introduction, I'll hand over the ceremonies to Vinayak, who will share his topic today: API testing using Cypress. Right. After that, we have time for Q&A or 99 seconds talk. So 99 seconds talk is actually a session where everyone in this call can, just jump on and, speak anything that you want about this topic or any other topic related to testing or not even testing related topics, anything you want to speak about. So you're welcome to, come up and speak about that. And then afterwards, we can wrap up this learning session. Okay. So let me begin with the introduction of Ministry of Testing. So if you haven't, if you're first time here or you don't know what is Ministry of Testing, so it's actually it started off actually as a group, as a community where testers, learn with each other and understand things better about testing. Okay, it started off small, but eventually it became big that they actually built a company around this community lah, to serve the community better. So hence Ministry of Testing. So in here, to me, one of the biggest advantages is that there's constant things that you can understand and learn even from the free part of the site. Okay, so there's paid part and there's the free part. So the free part is where you can, browse through shared articles or knowledge base where you can understand more about testing. Okay, but the paid part is where you can actually get into community calls like events, conferences that they organize, and then from there you can learn more in real time as well during the project, the event itself. So that's one of the advantages of being a paid member of Ministry of Testing. So in general, there are four ways to sort of interact with this Ministry of Testing site. First is to learn what they call on the dojo, where it is a resource of testing, software testing content and resources. So you can have full article, full catalog of things they have provided in the past. For instance, event speakers they record and then they put it as a thing that you can go out and take and review. They have past articles and current articles, talks, podcasts, as well as specialized courses that's offered to the paid members. Okay, so that's Learn on Dojo. So second part is where you can connect with the community in many ways. I think one of the best ways I connect with to them is using MoT Slack. They have a Slack channel where they communicate every day. In there, there's a lot of gems that actually people share based on their experience, on their knowledge. Second thing is that they have the club, what they call the club, which is basically a internet forum or message board. Okay. Then we have testers chat, and then we have feeds as well. If you subscribe to the RSS feeds, you can have series of articles whenever it's updated on the Ministry of Testing site. And they have newsletters as well, which if you subscribe, you can have updates about their current events and promotions as well. The third way you can interact is via events. Okay, they regularly do events now online. But previously, in the previous year, previously they do real conferences where people can speak, and they also have many 99-second session in those events. Okay, but actually having an online meet is better right now. They had like a 48-hour test batch done just couple of months back, where they had a online conference going on for the full 48 hours, which is really uh, an enjoyable experience because you can just jump in and jump out whenever you want, and you can also plan your time around what events or talks you want to attend during the 48-hour test batch. Okay, and then they have master classes, which is basically experienced and deeply knowledgeable people holding court on specific testing issues. And lastly, they have event called Task Me Anything, which is basically they host people and then people can ask that invited speakers anything that is comes across on their mind. Okay, and the last bit, how to interact with them is to contribute articles. You can also speak, volunteer to speak. You can also do classes as well, master classes, but there's a specific format that you need to understand and learn and propose to them before they can accept. So that's the last bit on how you can contribute to the Ministry of Testing. Okay. This is an example of the Slack channel that they have. A screenshot of what they have. They have on the side channels on API testing, automation, events, all those good stuff over there, right? So it's free to join. This is a snapshot of the events they held last time. So you can see, what types of events they organize. Some of it is free, like I think AMA is free, but Test Bash is where you can you need to pay. They offer per event fees as well, rather than joining in as a member. But that's something that they offer whenever they get close to the event. Right. Before we start the talk, would like by Vinayak, I'd like to just share some community principles. These are the core principles that Ministry of Testing subscribe to, and would like for all participants to be aware and follow lah. Okay, so I think the first bit is be human. Okay, means that we need you to participate, give your inquisitive mind, ask questions, and in follow up, be kind as well to the speakers, to everyone participating in this meet. Respectful towards everyone as well, the participants, the speakers. If you have a question, please be nice and ask. Be supportive and inclusive. And lastly, when you're learning new things, you need to be open-minded. So these are community principles that is upheld in every Ministry of Testing meets, and I hope everyone can be aware and follow through with this. Yeah. So that's it for the introduction for Ministry of Testing. I would like to now hand over to Vinayak for his talk today, API testing with Cypress. So Vinayak, this introduction is he's actually one of my we are colleagues in a conference in a lab also to speak. So I've known him for quite some time. He's really active now, all over the world speaking.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
yeah, so he's a lot of gems that he wants to share, and he's really a really cool, dedicated person lah. He worked with Custom previously. Now he's with AXA Insurance
Yes.
as a test lead, Vinayak, or what?
Yes, Samir, as a test lead.
Right, yes, test lead. Yeah, I didn't quite get your role there, but I'd like to hand over this session to you, Vinayak, for you to share your gems, and I'd like everyone to give a warm welcome to Vinayak. Thanks.
Thank you for the introduction.
Right, I'll share now.
Okay. Let me share the screen. So is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, sounds good. So can see the slides, right? API testing using Cypress.
Yes, yes. You can probably expand that. Make it presentation mode lah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. All good.
looks good. So let me turn off the.
Yeah. Over to you.
Okay, Amit, thank you. So first of all, thank you for joining the session. And in today's session, I'll be covering about API testing using Cypress. So why Cypress? So it's to simple tagline, it's end-to-end testing approach. Okay, I mean, thanks to Amit, like I already have given introduction about myself. So, but a quick introduction. I'm myself Vinayak Tithi, co-founder of and organizer of QA Tech Talks community and test lead at Exa Insurance, which is a insurance domain. And I'm an author of Cypress Cookbook as well, and a blogger. And in free time, I write blogs on Cypress and other automation frameworks. And I do YouTube videos as well and workshops, and I'm a corporate trainer as well. And coming to my experience, I have 10 plus years of experience on testing and other industry as well. On Cypress, I've been working from 2018 onwards. Yeah, it's nearly like 3 plus years of experience. Okay. So first of all, let's go with the theory part. Like, what is Cypress? Cypress is a free open source locally installed test runner, and it comes with a dashboard service to record your tests. And it's a front end and back end test automation tool built for the next generation of modern web applications. So why we say like there are many tools in the industry, testing industry, Selenium, Protractor, WebDriver IO, but Cypress is some kind of out of the box testing where we can handle the end-to-end approach, not only front-end, we can test the back-end, APIs, DBs, and we can test any programming language. For example, React.js, Angular, Node.js, Vue.js. So to name it, it supports any language. And the scope of Cypress is not only testers, even developers also can do for component testing, unit testing, integration testing. So it was developed in perspective of developers and QA engineers. Okay. So why we use Cypress over other automation frameworks? So there are, as I earlier mentioned, there are plenty of automation frameworks in the industry. So Cypress is mainly JavaScript test automation for web applications. It won't support Windows, but only the scope is web application, API, DB, and visual testing. And it's all-in-one testing framework comes with a mock-up framework, Chai. So we don't need to install separate modules. So it comes with a mock-up framework, and we can use Chai as library for the assertions. And we can do mocking and stubbing without Selenium. So here we don't see like a drivers kind of thing. So everything is like a Cypress inbuilt drivers. So it runs in the local browser. So it supports, as I earlier mentioned, Mocha test framework, which we can be used to develop web test automations. Okay, so coming to the functionality, how does Cypress work? Cypress is executed in the same run loop as our application. Behind Cypress is a Node.js server process. So Node.js is a proxy here where Cypress will interact with the Node.js, and Node.js will interact with the web browser. So, and your web browser will return the request and response to Node.js proxy, and it will return back to the Cypress commands. Okay, here we can see the testing tools operate by running outside of the browser and executing remote commands. So when coming to like Selenium or any other framework, if we take, when we execute, it runs in the remote browser, but not in the local browser. But Cypress have the flexibility, it runs in the local browser where we can interact with the DOM. So we can interact with the console JavaScript errors and network capture controls, cookies. So everything is possible with to handle with the DOM. And Cypress takes snapshots of our application and enables you to time travel back to the state it was when commands ran. So whenever like Cypress execute, it will capture the screenshots and it will store the logs. So we can trace back the logs if any failed case or any error it's throwing. So its debugging is very easy in Cypress. Okay, so here are the other features of Cypress. So one is the mocking APIs. So by mocking the server response, it has the ability to test edge cases. So not only front end, we can mock the APIs, and the other feature is time travel. So it will take the snapshots of the test run. So we can debug the screenshots. And flags resistant. So it automatically waits for commands. Okay. And assertions before moving on. So the autosync, it has an autosync wait feature. By default, it waits for 4 seconds. So when we don't need to give like wait commands, automatically it will take care. But if you want to customize the waits, yes, we can do. And the other feature is spy stubs and clocks. It can verify and control the behavior of functions, server responses, or timers. So one is the mocking APIs, and the other feature is spy stubs and clocks. And real-time reloads. So whenever we do any changes to the script, automatically it will fetch the latest changes and it will execute. So everything is like a real-time and instant. And consistent results. One of the other feature of Cypress is it gives consistent and reliable tests that aren't flaky. And the other feature is network traffic control. So as I earlier mentioned, we can handle the DOM with the network traffic controls, cookies handling, JavaScript console errors, and automatic waiting, and screenshots and videos. Okay, so the other feature is whenever any failed case test cases are there, so Cypress will automatically capture the screenshots and videos. So we don't need to define any function. So Cypress framework comes with inbuilt features. And debuggability. So readable error messages help you to debug very quickly and easily where exactly the test case failed and why it failed. Okay. So here comes the picture of test runner. So it's the Cypress comes with the test runner. Everything is a dashboard execution, and we have command line execution as well. It is an end-to-end testing tool geared towards web application testing. Okay, not only web application testing, but it comes with the extensive API control as well. So it can easily exercise any HTTP API. And in particular, we can take advantage of built-in method, which, okay, to call the API calls, we need a function. So that is the side.request function. So we can interact using the function. We can call the get methods, post method, put method, delete, patch. And yeah, this method is pretty flexible and is geared towards, here we can see, get URL requests. But it can execute any HTTP verb. Okay. So here is the snippets of Cypress for the API calls. Here we can see side.request pass the parameters URL and body method, what method we are calling, URL and body, and we can pass the options as well. Okay, so why Cypress for API testing? We have plenty of API testing tools, Postman, Supertest, and for REST assured framework, Frisbee. So plenty of frameworks there, but why Cypress for API testing? So Postman is good tool. I mean, Postman is easy to manually test and automate the snippets as well, but the scope is only API. But if you want to build a framework, for example, API, UI testing, DB testing, visual testing, so it comes with the end-to-end framework. So that's why Cypress is recommended for end-to-end approach. Okay, and API and browser automation tests, and the tools used are very different. And API tests are executed by a command line test runner, and automation tests are all fire up a browser. So we can call the web UI at the same time API in the same framework. We can either have a UI interface to explore and play with individual requests or a command line test runner. Why can't we have both? So that's why that is the scope of Cypress with API testing. So the installation is very simple. We can create a project using the command make directory, and the next command is npm init to initialize the package.json file and to install Cypress. Okay, so there is a simple command npm install Cypress save dev, so which is a dev dependency, and finally npx Cypress open to open the test runner and execute. So REST API testing using Cypress. So it's important to test APIs along with end-to-end UI tests, and it can also be helpful to stabilize APIs and prepare data to interact with third-party servers. So as I earlier mentioned, if the scope is only API, then we can go for the Postman, and the Postman with Newman command line test runner. But if the scope is UI integration, DB integration, then network traffic controls, then Cypress is recommended for the API testing. And it provides the functionality to make an HTTP request, and we can validate all the methods. For example, to name it, get, post, put, and delete API endpoints. Excuse me. So here is the snippets of get method, how we do the how we call the get requests. So here we can see it is a test case, represents as a test case, and side.request. We are calling the side.request function, and the URL we are passing base URL, and we are doing the dot then callback function and getting the response. So here we are storing the response from the API call, and finally doing the chai assertion library, expect response.body to have a property code 200. So in this, it's very simple to call the APIs and catch the response, and finally we can do the assertion. Okay, when it comes to post method, it's straight similar to get request, side.request. Here we pass the method. Here we can see post method and the URL. We have to pass the URL and body. So post method always comes with body. So here we can pass the which is the properties like ID to title automation. And after that we do the callback function, get the store the response, and do the assertion. Response.body to has property title automation. Okay, so if it comes to put method, put and post are almost similar. Here we can see method post, and when it comes to put, we give the method put, and pass the URL and body. So what is the data to update, and finally store the response and do the assertion. Okay, when it comes to delete method, it's a similar way. Here we can see side.request, and method we are passing delete and pass the URL and catch the response and do the assertion. So here we are using the child library, expect response.body to be empty. So for delete, there will be it won't be written any response, only it will get the status code 201, or we can check that data to be empty. Response is empty. Okay, so previously we have gone through all the API methods, but now we can check the network capture controls, which is the so usually like in the DOM we have like tabs, console errors, network traffic requests, and cookies, application cookies. So Cypress helps you to test the entire life cycle of the HTTP request within your application. And Cypress provides you to access to the objects with information about the request, enabling you to make assertions about its properties. Additionally, you can even stub and mock a request response. So I'll show a quick demo how we do the handle the network traffic control as well. And stubbing responses is a great way to control the data that is written to your client. So whenever if you want to be test the mock APIs, Cypress is recommended. So we can use the Cypress.intercept function to handle to mock the APIs. Okay. So here are the common testing scenarios. So asserting on a request body, asserting on a request URL, and request headers. We can assert to the headers a response body, stubbing a response body, and status code, response headers, and delaying a response. We can test the delaying API calls as well, and waiting for a response to happen. Okay, here is the concept of intercept to handle the stubbing and mocking. So here we can see spying only using the function side.intercept and pass the URL. And the second option is side.intercept method and the URL. And if you want to route matcher, which is like waiting mechanism, and we can handle the waiting mechanism as well using Cypress intercept. Okay. So the usage is here we can see the side.intercept, and we need to pass the URL and query. If you want to do any query search, we can pass the query parameters as well. and we are storing here we are storing as a alias dot as defines as a alias search. So we are storing the response as a search, and after that here we can see wait for the API call to load, then only go for the next request. So until the API call completed, it will wait for some time. So here we can see once any type of request to search will with a query string containing query expected plus terms response. Once it responds, side.wait will resolve. So side.wait is kind of like a promise. So true and false. So either if the response is true, it will resolve. If it fail, then it will throw the exception. Okay, here is another usage of spying and response stubbing. So left side we can see side.intercept. We need to pass the endpoint, for example, here users, and if we can pass the get method, and we can pass the properties as well, method get or URL endpoint and the host name. And right side we can see for the post method. So side.intercept post and pass the endpoint users status code. Okay, here we can mock the status code also as per our requirement. And body we can here we can see body we can pass as per our requirement. So here we are like we are like replacing the server and passing our own data. Sometimes like we don't have like real-time endpoints ready or server is not ready. So here we can like define the mock APIs and we can test. So there will be no blockers for the test environment. Okay, so let's see the Cypress API demo now. So before that, as I earlier mentioned, we can execute Cypress tests in using the test runner. Here we can see dashboard test runner. Here is the API test, network capture controls, and the UI tests. So if you want to execute any test, we need to go to the folder, click on the spec file. So let's go to, let's walk through the framework here. So once we install Cypress, it will comes with a predefined bundle of package here. It comes everything as a framework. So we don't need to initialize from scratch. So half of the work will be taken care by Cypress. So straight away, we can go to the, open the Cypress and go to the integration folder and start writing specs. So the installation is very easy and less maintenance and less installation as well. So here you can see the specs have three kind of layers. One is the API network and the UI tests. So let's go with the API first. Here we can see we got the get methods, patch, post. So let's go with the get method first. Okay. So describe is a mock-up framework suite level, and in each suite it consists like it blocks. So each it block represents as a test case. So here is one first test case, check endpoint response. Second one is here, check endpoint response with properties key value. And the third one is get list of users and verify dynamic data. And we can check the endpoint delayed response as well. And finally, we can check the response headers as well. So let's execute one by one. So before that, let me just a quick walkthrough. Here we can see side.request. Here I have passed the method get and the URL. Here is the, so if you open the URL, so here we can see the response data. So results and contains the gender, name, all the body results. So our test case is we are passing the query string results1, and after that catch the exception and store in a variable, and here do the assertion expect response.status to be 200 and response.body to have property results. So here we can see on a high level we have the results and the here is the data. Okay, so the first case, let's execute only the first test case. So to execute, there is a function called it.only. Okay, so now let's go to the test runner and execute the spec file, get method spec file. So the execution will be happening in the local browser. So here we can see it's a backend, right? So we don't see the UI layer here. So here we can see the get request and expected status code to be 200 and expected object to have property results. So here we can inspect the elements as well. If you want to inspect, even we can see debug one by one here. So expect 200, here you can see, and the object here you can see actual, we got the results here. So all the data is here. So in this way we can debug while execution happening in the background. So here is the array results. Okay, so that's about the simple request. If you want to test, for example, properties to have key value. So here we can see, for example, we got the results 1, page 1, version 1.3. So we need to test the key value properties. So in the same way, I have called the request and then response.status to be 200 and the body results to match. Here we can pass the regular expression as well, and to have property page 1 version 1.3. So now I'm checking the low level properties as well. So here we can see when I do the changes, automatically executing in the background, and we can expand the check response with property key value. Here we can see status code 200 and the properties gender to be regular expression we can pass, and property which is the page should be 1 key value and the version to be 1.3. So here we are checking these properties. Okay. So the next test case is about verifying dynamic data. So if the data is dynamic, we can check get the response of the data, and the email is not null. We can check assert is not null. So for example, let me open. Okay. So here is the host request.in. Here we can see all the requests, get methods, post, put, patch, delete. So all the requests are here. So now we are testing, for example, get the data. And for example, tomorrow the data might be dynamic. So tomorrow email will be Vinayak and first name will be Vinayak. So in this case, we cannot hard code the value. So that's why I have given email to be not null. And here we can see name, first name to be not null, last name to be not null. So that's about the next test case. Excuse me. So here we can see it is checking one by one, status code 200 and first name of Michael. Okay, here we can see the expected email to be is not equal null and first name and last name. So if we give like status code, for example, 400 and save. Here we can see expected 200 to equal 400. So now we can go to the spec file, and here we can see we can debug exactly the line number and check where exactly it failed. So we can do the modifications and save. So now we can see the test case is pass. Excuse me. So if you want to debug, as I earlier mentioned, we can inspect. So here we can see expected Michael to not equal null and for last name and email. So in this way, we can debug the properties as well, expected and actual as well. Okay, if you want to check the headers, for example, here we can see I have given the headers to be its content type should include application JSON. So the response headers here we can see expected application JSON charset UTF-8 to include application JSON. So we can check the headers also, not only the response, headers and cookies as well. Okay, so the next method is here we can see post method. Post is to create. So we can pass the endpoint and body and check the responses to 201 or not. So That's about the site.request and method post. So here we can say I'm passing the host and create endpoint. So these environments call I have stored in the cypress.environment.json file where it's a secure place to store. So here I have given the host and all the endpoints. So here we can see I have passed the body and get the callback function and response status to be 201 and have properties name Morpheus. So that's about the response here. And we can check the ID is not null. So, so for each request, the ID will be dynamic. So in this case, we can check the dynamic data to be not empty or not null. So let's execute the post call now. Okay, here you can see two API calls. One is for the create new user data in DB. So here we can see expected status code and expected the properties. Here we can see the created date should not be null and ID should not be equal to null. And if you want to test login unsuccessful, you can check the login valid cases and invalid cases as well. For example, here I have passed the body email only and I'm checking the property error missing password. So if you go to the endpoint, here we can see login unsuccessful. Here is the endpoint. I'm passing only email, not the password. So status code should be 400 and message missing password. So that's what I have given the assertion here. So I can give the status also here 400 status code. So here we can see status code match and error message missing password. So we can see like it's pretty straightforward and easy to like call the APIs. And not only API calls, we can do, for example, we can first do the UI layer and after that API layer. And we can include DB as well if the requirement is there. So if you want to build a framework, Cypress is recommended. But if you want to go for like simple testing, then Postman. Okay, the next method is put. It's simple. I mean, similar to post. Here we can see only the method we need to update put, and what are the properties data we are changing. Before the data is, for example, Morpheus leader. Here we are passing as a tester. So here we can see finally doing the assertion status code, and the body should have property name Morpheus and job tester, and checking the updated it should not be null. So let's execute the put method. So here we can see it's executed in very short time. Here we can see expected code 200 and to have property name Morpheus and job tester and updated date not to be not empty or null. Okay, so the next method is patch. If you want to test the difference between put and patch, here we can see, excuse me. So in the patch, we don't need to give the full, only we can give only job. We don't need to pass the full request. Here you can see name and job. In patch, okay. So we can verify schema as well. That is another way. So in the demo, yeah. So that's like I do provide training as well. So I will cover like more in-depth concepts in the training sessions. But as per today's demo, I will show the like quick overview of API calls. So here we can see if you want to test the patch method. Okay, so here we can see to have property name of, okay, so okay, here I have didn't pass the name, so that's why it failed, because we have given only the patch only for job to update the data. Here you can see status code and the job patch. We have updated the job property to test automation engineer. Okay, if we delete, so the delete call is we don't pass any body, right? So only call the API an API endpoint and the response 204. Excuse me, it's not 201, it's 204. Data mocking in this, yes, I'll show like a quick demo, sure. So here we can see pass the method delete and pass the URL. I'm passing the host and the delete endpoint and catch the response and do the assertion. So status code should be 204. So let's execute the delete call. So here we can see the endpoint and expected 204 to equal 204. So that's what we have achieved. Okay, so now we have gone through the API calls. But if as Rashmi mentioned, if you want to mock the data, so then it will comes to network capture controls. So if you want to modify any data, so for example, here we can see the data is Michael, first name, last name, Michael Lawson, and the author. So here I can mock all this data as per our requirement, but it's public, right? So I can call the, here we can see, so using the Cypress intercept, we can do the stubbing and mocking. Here we need to pass the method and the what is the endpoint. So here is the endpoint, API users page 2, excuse me, and here is the request and request.reply. So here I'm passing the status code, like modifying the status code to be 200 and fixtures. So here we are passing our own data, not the real server data. So fixtures. So if you want to input the payload, huge payload, then we cannot pass like previous here, right? So I have stored everything in the list users.json in the fixtures folder. So data should be always stored in the fixtures folder. Here we can see list users.json file. So here is the payload. So here what I have done, I have given the test data, Vinayak, first name Vinayak, Tithi. So the actual data is Michael. So now when we execute this test case, so that data should reflect and should update our own data. So here we can see after calling the API call, I can visit the site.visit, site.intercept to mock the calls, site.visit to interact with through the UI. So after that, we can check the UI, the data is showing or not. So we have called the API call. Here we can see now we are interacting with the UI. So here we can see method get and the route matcher. Here we are calling the API and stub. Yes, we are doing the stubbing, mocking the data, right? So here is yes. Elias, no. So if you go to the UI here we can see the mock data, which is Vinayak, first name Vinayak, last name Tithi. So in this way, we can mock the server, real server data and test our like mock APIs. So here is the, after that we have interacted with the UI, scroll into view, and after that we can do the UI interaction testing. So yeah, that is one example. And if you want to test another example, okay, let's consider the Instagram application. So we can now handle the network traffic controls as well. So let me give some dummy data. Okay. Usually what we do when we input the invalid test data, so we verify the assertion only, expected message and the actual message. But now we can handle the network capture controls as well. Here is the Ajax call. Here we can see. So this is the manual interaction. Here is the API call post method and status code 200. So if they are passing, they are not handling the status code for the invalid test case, invalid test data, but we can check the response. Here we can see user false because it's invalid data, authenticated false. Status they are passing okay. So somehow they are not handling the error codes, but they are handling the response, which is the authenticated false, because it's an invalid user, right? So we can now handle these network capture controls as well. So how to do that? So here is the example. Okay, so first we need to go give the function side.intercept and the method post pass the endpoint, which is the login endpoint, and we are storing using here alias dot as alias login. We are storing in a variable, and after that I am doing the UI interaction. So open the browser, enter the username, enter the password, and type the password, invalid password, and click on login button, then capture the response. Excuse me. So here we can see I have stored one variable. Here I'm using the wait mechanism. So wait for the API to load, and then should is a promise to check the request and response. So here I have given the body to have property authenticated false. So which is expected. Here we can see authenticated false, and property status to be okay and user to be false because it's invalid data. So let's execute the scenario. Okay, so here we can say the test executed successfully. Now we are not only verifying the UI error message, but we can handle the DOM. So here we can see route matcher post method and the API call. Here we didn't use stub, but alias variable login. So here we open the browser, interact with the UI, enter email, enter password, click login button, and here we can see after click wait for the API to load, and here we are checking the backend calls. So if we inspect here, so here we can see expected object user authenticate to have property authenticated and status to be false. So that's what it's returning, and status of okay. Here we can see actual and expected, and finally user to be false. So if I give, like, for example, authenticated true, you can see the test case is failed. Okay, so here is the assertion error to have property authenticated of true, but the ideal result is false. So in the console, we can check the JavaScript errors as well. So it will catch the, if you want to bypass the exceptions, we can bypass, or if you want to catch the JavaScript alerts, you can catch the errors as well. So here we can see the debugging is very simple and easy. It's like command line traceback. We can debug previous history one by one and check what is the result. Okay, so that's about the data mocking in Cypress using the intercept concept. Okay, so today's scope is only API and network capture controls. Yeah, I mean UI is another session. So that's about the demo. So let's go back to the. So all these tests now I'm executing using the test runner, but we can do using the command line as well. Okay, let me cover one more example. So for example, there is a form submission. Here we can see. Okay, here we can see there is it's a local host login. So here is the form, username and password. So if I go to dashboard directly, it will fail because we didn't go through the access. But using the side API calls, we can bypass that one. So for every test case, we don't need to log in. Using the side.request, we can bypass the login and check all the test cases. So the test case context is, if you want to go for form submission using UI, this is the context. And the second context is form submission using API. So here is the before each annotation. Here I have passed the request and method URL form true, yes, body, username and password. So I have stored the username and password variables. So here I'm passing the body, and after that the test case starts here. So for every test case I don't need to log in. So site.request will take care in the backend. It will log in, bypass the login, and here you can see site.go to the dashboard directly and verify the data. So now let's execute the form submission. So here you can see the form submission using API. I didn't do any login. I can directly access the dashboard using the site.request API call. So it's useful when we are handling like number of test cases. We don't need to test every time. It takes like synchronization issues, loading issues, right? Login one time and directly access the pages, and we can test. So that's about one of the, here we can see we can test the cookies as well. If you want to test the cookies, so in this way. So get the cookie should exist. So if we inspect the cookies, go to the application, here you can see, we can check the cookies as well. So after the dashboard, go to the dashboard, welcome to dashboard, Jane Lane, that's about the message. So here we can see, and we can verify the cookies as well. Okay, so that's about the today's demo about the API tests and the network capture controls. And UI tests, yes, I have covered already one session, but yeah, in future I'll be coming up with more workshops and Cypress training on UI and full advanced concepts as well. And let's go to the slides. So yeah, just a quick I mean about the Malaysia, who are living in Malaysia and abroad as well. So we are looking for from QA Tech Talks, we are looking for mobile beta testers from Malaysia. If anyone interested, please contact me on LinkedIn. So it's about a mobile beta testing, like one of my company, I mean not my company, but yeah, they are looking for beta testers. So if anyone interested, feel free to contact me. And yeah, I do provide training as well. So if anyone interested, please feel free to contact me. So, and the website is techtalks.info/courses. And I do provide like weekend batch training for, I cover like from scratch JavaScript topics, Cypress, all the concepts, and advanced CI/CD integration and browser stack integration, Gmail testing. So I do cover like end-to-end testing as well. And finally, thank you. So any questions?
All right. Thank you, Vinayak, for your time.
Thanks,
I
Abhi.
think we have a question, but mainly from Rashmi. So maybe let me try something. Okay. So let me invite Rashmi to the stage if he's willing to jump in and ask his questions directly.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, Rashmi, you there? Rashmi, are you in the stage already or? Oh, not getting an option to enable mic. Ah, okay. Wait. Rashmi, we can hear you, but can hear noise, I guess. I think your mic is there. Oh, okay, let me try something. I think your mic is fine. So it's okay. Something not working, but I think Rashmi is asking how to validate schemas. Yeah.
Schemas, yes, we can do verify the schema as well. So that's we can get the property. There is a using the side dot request only, and after that verify the assertion. I can, I mean, for today's session, I don't have the example for to cover, but yeah, we can do the schema validation as well. So we
All
can
right.
check whether it's the property is a string, integer, array. So we can do all the JSON schema validation as well.
Okay. Next up is question is, can we do data mocking within Cypress?
Yes, Samir. Just now I have shown one example using the
Yeah.
side.intercept concept. We can do the data mocking in Cypress.
Does Cypress accept data sets from files, test data sets from files, say Excel or CVS files?
Yes, I mean Cypress internally it won't support, but there are third-party modules. So using a Node XLS module, we can handle the Excel CSV files.
Is the module, I mean, third-party modules work like a marketplace kind of thing where we can choose?
Yes, so Cypress they release their own license version and plugins as well. So if you go to Cypress plugins, so here we can see all the plugins available for Cypress. Cucumber is a third party. So community. So we can use the community versions as well. So
Mm,
development tools here we can see Docker, TypeScript. If you are using TypeScript, it's official from Cypress, and community is from the third party open source.
okay, right. It's cool there.
Yeah. So here we can see custom commands. If you want to do the viewports, side.view, drag and drop, community version, accessibility testing, mobile commands,
Mm, it's quite big.
side.wait, yes.
The library is quite big, right?
Yeah, community is growing rapidly, and yeah, many modules available.
All right. I see a question, but I'm not sure you already shared that. Where can you access this project?
Yeah. So the thing is it's I can share with the register members today who participated today. So please share your emails. If anyone looking for testing, I mean training as well. So I will share like the project and the more examples.
Okay, sure. All right. I guess that's all the question we have from the box. Anyone wanna ask further questions? Feel free to I think you have an option to unmute yourself. So
Cypress supports cross-browser testing. For example, I can show here only Safari, currently Safari and IE. So here for the cross-browser testing, we don't need to do any installation and setup. Cypress by default, it comes with here, we can say Chrome, Firefox, Electron. If you want to, yeah, it supports Microsoft Edge as well, but currently no support for Safari. So yeah, hopefully this year there will be roadmap for Safari and IE.
okay. Let me try again. Safari and what browser?
Safari and IE.
Okay.
Okay, can you use Cypress for mobile as well? No, I mean Cypress is only for web automation, API layer and DB. But when coming to native apps, Cypress won't support native apps. Yeah, that is one of the drawback. But yeah, if you want to go for another, which is a Appium or XUI test.
Okay. Let me jot down the emails that has been shared in the or chat box, because I think when we end the session, the chat box will disappear. So let me collect all the emails first.
Okay, Amir.
No worries. Any competitive tools in the market with Cypress?
Yeah, that's a good question. So nowadays, like many tools coming each year, right? We have other competitive tools. For example, recently got Playwright and Puppeteer. So one of the popular tools as well. But Cypress is one of out of the box testing because we can capture the network traffic controls, DOM. I mean, we can handle the API, DB, and one of the other thing is like it runs in the local browser. So yeah, that is one of the unique selling point of Cypress, and it comes with the framework, inbuilt framework. So we don't need to, do a lot of spending our time on framework development. We can focus on the automation scripts. Where other frameworks we have to focus on the framework development and automation. So it's like time consuming, right? So that's why Cypress is more recommended.
Okay. Okay. I think I have 4 emails. Anyone want to drop emails anymore before we end this session? I will share across this email to Vinayak so that he can send across the projects as well for your perusal and you playing around. Okay.
Okay, man. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. I think with that, I'd like to end this session. Maybe you can unshare, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming, spending some time today, and engaging in this very informational and eye-opening talk. Personally, for me, I've used Cypress last year, just playing around, but this
Oh,
year
okay, cool.
I'm about to start a project with my team, and actually I want to take another look at Cypress again because it kind of fits into our test case, the use case for testing. So I'll
Okay,
be
cool.
in touch with my guru here, so that we can make better use of Cypress projects. All
Sure,
right.
sure. Yeah.
Let me see if there's any. Oh yeah, there's one more email. Thanks. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Thanks for the time. So with
Yes.
that, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to end this call, and I hope everyone safe time and take care of yourselves. Yeah.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks for the invitation.
All right. Thanks, Vinay. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.